Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, Hayley.
Happy Monday, Micah. How are you today?
I am well. It is August 19, 2024. And I know a lot going on, Hayley, I know you've been contacting all types of speakers, getting ready for our fall. And then before you know it, December will be here for our winter webinar weekend. So I know you've been very, very busy. So tell us what's been going on with OCI.
Oh my goodness, so many things. So, first of all, on Saturday, September 7th, we have a full day of live webinars. As you all know, we have Dr. Coleman who presenting in the afternoon on the ethics of working with Latinx individuals and families. I am happy to announce that in the morning we are going to welcome back Ashley Munns. And so Ashley Munns is an LPC here in the Metro, and she has presented with us before on attachment, and she's coming back that Saturday bright and early to talk about infant mental health. So I was actually part of a learning collaborative with Ashley through Sunbeam about 5 or 6 years ago on infant mental health. And Ashley is definitely an expert. She has had a lot of wonderful training on the subject. And so I'm really excited to welcome Ashley back, and hopefully you all are too. And on top of all that, we have an array of incredible trainings coming up. In October, we're going to be welcoming back Dr. Paul Hardy. Dr. Paul Hardy spoke with us last December on the topic of substance abuse among the geriatric population. He'll be talking about, he'll actually be doing two trainings with us. One of them in the morning will be on motivational interviewing and substance abuse, and the one in the afternoon will be working with families and teenagers with substance abuse. And then in November, we're going to welcome back Tiffany Dilworth. We also have a lot of stacked presenters for the winter workshop weekend, and so everyone's contracts are getting signed, and so once those contracts are back, then I'll be releasing some names, but we've got an incredible lineup. I'm very excited this year. Micah doesn't just pay me to say that. I'm really, really stoked for our trainings this year. And on
Yeah,
top
I
of
am.
all that,
I
oh,
am
go ahead,
too.
Micah.
Yeah, we're going to have some really great ones coming up. And again, those will be live webinars. So if you have your LCSWs, they're going to need their trainings. And then also LMFTs, theirs is done by the end of December. And of course, LPCs and LADCs can jump in and watch some early if you're being really proactive. So yeah, we have a lot of great ones coming up. And then, yeah, we also have some consultation groups coming.
Yes, starting on Monday, September 9th, that is 3 weeks from today, we'll have two consultation groups starting up. Bright and early on Mondays at 8:30, we're going to have Dr. Scott Secor doing a consultation group on acceptance and commitment therapy. And so if you've ever been interested in acceptance and commitment therapy, right now is a great time to get involved, not only to learn from Dr. Secor, but also meet a group of peers to consult with as well. I know as mental health professionals, as we get into the field, maybe as if we're in private practice or if we're in a small agency setting, it might be difficult for us to be able to connect with peers for that consultation. So now is a great time to get connected with a bunch of folks who are also on the same page. That being said, at 10:30 on Mondays, also starting September 9th, we'll welcome back Dr. Lack. He'll be doing another written exposure therapy consultation group. And so if you missed the first round, or if you're just now getting interested in written exposure therapy, be sure to sign up today. And so you can go to counselinginstitute.org to sign up for any of our upcoming webinars, any of our consultation groups, or you can send me an email or shoot me a text. I'm happy to help you get signed up. But we have a lot of great things coming up, Micah, lots of good things.
Yes. I'm really excited about that. I know written exposure therapy is something we've been using at Edmond Counseling Professional Development, and it's been really, really a helpful protocol. I know ACT is something that you're really interested in, Hayley. And, one of the things about these consultation groups is, in doing these ethic trainings and things like that, and looking at, the possibility that we might be sued for malpractice, the things that they look at is what type of training do you have? Of course, we all have a master's degree. We all were under supervision for licensure, but then really drilling down, if we use like, WT or something like that, but we haven't actually had any training in it, then that doesn't look good. So if we have training in it, watching our on-demand webinars that we have two right now. We have Dr. Lax, and I did one on trauma and substance abuse that talks a lot about WT. And so if you're able to show the trainings you've done, and then on top of that, show that you've done consultation on how to use those techniques and how to use that approach, then that really helps one's case if, God forbid, they happen to be sued. So not only obviously just helping clinical practice and how to actually apply these things, but also helps to guard against a lawsuit if it happens to come around.
Absolutely. Plus, it'll be fun.
Yeah, plus it'll be fun. Right. Right. A lot of good learning opportunities. So, Haley, have a couple of things in the world of mental health to talk about. And so, one of the things I want to ask you,
Mhm.
ask our audience. So, what percentage of people do you feel like have adverse reactions to mindfulness meditation? Maybe to have an increase in anxiety, an increase in depression, or maybe even like disassociation, delusion, something like that. If you were to say a percentage, what percentage do you feel like it would be?
And thinking about my own mindfulness experience, when I was first getting into mindfulness for my own practice, I remember having an increase in anxiety first because I'm more aware of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say probably at least half of folks initially will have an adverse response.
Yeah. Well, you would say half. I probably, if I were asked, I would probably say like 1 or 2%, something like that. I'd probably kind of go toward the other way. But there was a recent article that was put in. It's called Post, and they cited research. My dog's barking. They
Hi,
cited
Betty.
research where this person looked back over the past 40 years and found that 10% of clients had an adverse reaction to mindfulness practice, where they had the increase in anxiety, depression, maybe even some delusional symptoms, disassociation. So that's something just to be aware of. Obviously, there's some people that we may not prescribe mindfulness practice to. The first thing that came to mind for me was PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So, using something like written exposure therapy or cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, something like that first, and then maybe later on start, going toward mindfulness practice if it's to treat other symptoms, right? But as far as just the exposure point, because a lot of people keep themselves busy so that they don't have to think about the trauma. And you tell them just to sit still and let those thoughts, come and gently focus on your breath or whatever. Now you have all these traumatic thoughts that may end up coming up. So I could see in that context where there would be an increase of anxiety, there. And then, also when people are dealing with psychosis or something, we may want to be careful in prescribing mindfulness practice to them. So I think right now mindfulness is just really, really big in the world of mental health, and we all, if we're not careful, we throw it out there as something for everyone all the time. And just to be a little bit aware that it may not be a good thing for this particular client right now.
Absolutely. And with all of our interventions, is making sure we provide that informed consent. There's a chance that this might work. There's a chance it might not. There's a chance it might, do harm, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good thing just to have in our informed consent at the very beginning, as psychotherapy is not guaranteed to work. Things may actually get worse. But then, yes, as we're introducing these particular things, to say, hey, there's not a guarantee that this will, work as well. There are some drawbacks to it. So I found that interesting, and I put that into the feed on the Counseling Institute Facebook group page. And so it's on the feed there if you're interested in looking more at that article. But the other piece of new news that I have is that the LADC, Rick Pearson, recently sent out an email on August 16th talking about new rules for licensed alcohol and drug counselors. And so there's several in there. I want to say 6, maybe 10, something like that, changes that are in there. The one that really stuck out to me, though, is that if a person has a physical disability, then they may request a reduction in CEUs and present it to the board, and the board will consider it on a case-by-case basis. And so, right now with people traveling to in-person workshops, a person may have a physical disability that's really difficult for them to do that. Or even if it's attending a live webinar, person may have difficulty, depending upon what their physical, disability is, they may have difficulty in doing that and logging on. So I found that interesting that the LADC board recognizes that, and that one can petition to the board to ask for a reduction of CEUs in that situation.
Absolutely. That's interesting, and hopefully that's helpful for folks too.
Yeah. Yeah. So Haley, do you have any news in the world of mental health?
I do. Mine's a bit of a long one today, and I'm happy to share the report itself. But mine comes from WebMD. So WebMD had a report where it talked about how climate change may be affecting mental health conditions. And so a few of the points that WebMD found. So they examined a wide body of research and reports from meta-analyses as well as individual studies. But just a few of the findings here. One of them was a 6 year study of 4 billion tweets found that hate messages tended to increase with temperatures. And so there's been longstanding research that has shown that, as temperatures increase, we humans are more vulnerable to irritability. We're more vulnerable to, having that hair trigger, feeling more angry. And so what they found is that that is also reflected online. It also found that with every 1.8 increase in temperatures, suicides in the United States increased by 1%. And this was studying over many, many decades. A few other things was that police are more likely to draw their weapons as temperatures increase whenever they come onto scenes. And also that decrease in air quality is showing to have significant cognitive effects. So decrease in air quality means more pollutants in the air and increased levels of CO2. And what they found is that hospitalizations in major cities. They looked at major cities such as cities in Rhode Island and Texas and California. And what they found is that hospitalizations for bipolar disorder and schizophrenia increased as temperatures increased. Also, what research has found is that air pollution will actually destroy brain cells in the amygdala and the hippocampus. So as CO2 levels increase, those two particular areas of the brain are significantly vulnerable. But overall, in general, an increase in CO2 has shown to have a decrease in cognitive functioning. Sometimes as much as 24% of cognitive functioning abilities can be decreased due to how significant the CO2 levels are in the atmosphere. So I think these are just things to keep in mind, as temperatures are rising, as our climate is changing, that this is not only having a significant effect on our environment, but also physiological effects on our brain. And so some of the things that WebMD suggested to mitigate some of these symptoms are staying inside whenever air pollution is high, staying inside as we can as temperatures are high, which we talked about I guess it was 3 weeks ago, the study from the University of Arizona that suggested that seasonal affect disorder can be applied to summertime as well as anxiety, irritability, and depression increases due to the temperatures. It also talked about, as much as you can, trying to keep plants in your house. And so plants, as we know, take up the CO2, produce the oxygen. And so having plants and having well-lit areas can be helpful in decreasing those pollutants. It also encouraged, on days when air quality is bad, don't burn candles in your house, don't use gas stoves. Try as much as you can to decrease the pollutants, because even though those would have a lesser effect, than the environmental pollutants itself, those can contribute. So just doing as much as you can to control your own environment, especially if you're in an area with high pollutants or have poor air quality days. But I thought that was an interesting look, because I understand that climate change, of course, can affect our mental health. Higher temperatures, there's been a lot of research on climate change and depression, just seeing the environments change and folks getting depressed, learning about that. But just learning about how the pollutants can actually change our brains was disheartening, but also interesting, and just something for us to keep in mind, not only for our personal lives, but in our practice as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we all feel that to be true when it's really hot outside. I
Mm-hmm.
know at some point it gets so hot, I just get mad. Like, you come
Yeah.
inside and it's just been so hot, you're like, just
Yeah.
angry that it's so hot outside. And, that makes sense. And to be able to actually, quantify it in some way is really, really interesting. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So, as far as looking at our weekly winner, who is our weekly winner for this week?
So, drum roll, please. I'm happy to announce our weekly winner is Sarah Mears. So, what did Sarah win? Also, thank you for supporting my addiction to pumpkin spice, Sarah. But what did Sarah win this week, Micah?
So, Sarah won a gift card to Bath and Body Works. So,
Oh,
congratulations, Sarah, on
congratulations.
winning for this week. So, how can people be like Sarah, Haley?
So you can be like Sarah, be entered into next week's drawing by doing one of three things or all of three things. You can like this post, which someone already has. You can comment on this post answering today's question, or you can share this post. Every time you do one of those three things, you get entered into a chance to win next week's drawing. And so, that being said, this week's question is, what's a hobby you've been into lately? And so, Micah, tell me, what is a hobby that you've been into?
You know, my wife, if she were watching this, which she usually does watch, she is our one of our fans. I'm happy to say. So she would laugh because I don't really have hobbies, and so if watching television is a hobby, then maybe I do that. So it's usually work at home or work at work, and then watch a little TV, and that's it. I'm a pretty boring person. But if I had to pick, I've been getting back into running lately, and so I've been enjoying that. So I guess if I have to pick one, that would be it. How,
Awesome.
Hayley? I know you have all types of hobbies. Which one are you going to pick then?
Man, my spouse and I are always getting into the most random hobbies. And so one of them that we've gotten into really over the last few months is learning Japanese. And we actually have a little, some of our friends are getting together every 2 weeks, and we're practicing our speaking because that's been the most challenging part. And so we're getting together tonight, we're making dinner, and we're going to practice our speaking ability. So that's been exciting and really fun.
Oh, nice. How fun. So that is our question of the week. So as Hayley said, if you answer that, like, share a post each time that you do any of those things, then you are entered to win for this week's drawing. And anytime that you tell a colleague about us, you like a post, you attend one of our in-person workshops, you attend an online training on demand or a live webinar, then you are helping to support the mission of providing quality continuing education in Oklahoma and beyond. And so we want to thank you so much for doing that. One last thing that I want to throw in is that we do have a position available at Edmond Counseling Professional Development right now. We have a part-time position and a full-time position available. And so if you want to learn more about that position, then just go to oklahomacounselingjobs.com. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Everyone have a good week, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.